taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I must firstly say, I'm also thank Mrs. Atilola for this great initiative. I wasn't surprised. I know Mrs. Atilola, she's always taking territories. So when I realized she's now doing this in the diaspora, I said, I wasn't surprised at all. It's an area of passion. So we really appreciate you, Ma. Pastor Atilola as well. It's great to see you as always, very supportive. Mrs. Fasher as well. Something told me you were going to be here today, so I'll be on my best behavior today. So thank you very much for taking time out to be with us. I just want to say that this is a very special topic to me because I started my diaspora journey at the age of 19 when my parents sent me to study in the UK. And I remember I had two options. I wanted to be in London because it was the place to be, buzzing. But I remember my late father telling me, if I'm the one paying the fees, I want somewhere quiet for you. And I think that quiet place got me out of distraction. And that's perhaps why I'm sharing this with you today, because I want to start by saying that whenever we end up in the diaspora, it's never by accident. There's actually a purpose for that. I know most people may have come through education. Some may come through economic migration. Some may come through so many different factors. But I believe as people of faith, we know that regardless of how we got there, God had his mighty hands in this. So what I hope to share in the next couple of minutes is just some thoughts. As Mrs. Atola was speaking earlier on, I'll come back to a scripture that came to mind. I know we shouldn't get all too scripturally because I'm not quite sure of everybody's faith standing. But the point is, there's a part of Isaiah 61 I love, talking about building the old waste places. And there was something about that scripture that talks about your children abroad. A powerful scripture. And I think this refers to those of us in the diaspora as well, that we certainly have an assignment to play. Talking about strangers, foreigners doing things for you, so on and so forth. But I'll come back to that scripture in my closing remarks. Of course, when we talk about the diaspora, we're talking about a group of people spread from one's original country. It's the act of spreading. And like I said initially, we spread for different reasons. We spread for education because of high quality education. We spread for better life. I actually think that's really the main reason people spread. Education might be the smoke screen, but you know, better life is a driving factor. Some people spread for health reasons. Maybe the kind of health condition they're in, their home country cannot support that. And I see that a lot, maybe for example, with families where the child has a special needs of some sort, and our systems are not being good enough to identify those needs. There could be a good reason why relocating might be the best for that child to fulfill destiny. Some spread for missionary reasons. There might be a missional calling to go out and and do things. All of those of us who live in places like Europe, and I'm sure maybe Canada is the same, we see the importance of re-evangelizing. In other words, people who brought the Christianity to us have now forgotten it. So some of us are actually abroad for the missionary duties. And besides, that's not just for the old, even the young. Some of us are abroad for political reasons. You may have been involved in a demonstration in your country and you had to run away because you felt your life was under threat. So there could be political reasons. There could also be other factors. But going to that theme of Mr. Tola's theme, which was very loaded, critical thinking, character value as antidote to life pressure, mental health issues among youngsters. I knew only Mr. Tola could have written that because it's loaded. When I started, I thought this is Mr. Tola at her very best because she wants to really get us thinking, as she always does. But I'll be looking more at the career aspect. I'll be looking more about what next after high school. I think this can also apply even to those of us at university. But in my study of diaspora, and I think parents may also find this useful, there are different perspectives. We're not all the same. There are children who were born abroad, they have a different mindset completely, or those who arrived very early in their diaspora journey. There are those who may have had their secondary school education in their home country, and then they arrived in Canada, UK, US, Ukraine, or wherever else. They have a different perspective. And then you have those who are much older, another different perspective completely. So we must realize that when we're talking about the diaspora, they have a different mindset. I think that's also important in how we address them and how they see the world. A child who had been in Nigeria or Ghana for the early part of the education will have a different perspective from a child who was born and bred in that country from the onset. So the perspectives are different. An adult who came in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s will have a different perspective as well. So we have different perspectives when we talk about the diaspora. But for those of us in the diaspora looking at the education perspective, it's very important that when we start to look at how to make the best of our journey, it's important to take some of these 7 steps, which I'll run through very quickly in cognizance. And I started reflecting, particularly over the last 24 hours, that going to study abroad or ending abroad is one thing, but it's not the end in itself if the plan is not solid. You know, a lot of parents make great sacrifices for their children to end abroad. I'm surrounded with people around me today who've left their home countries to give their children a better life, often working many jobs to keep it all going. So I think for children, for students, it's important to appreciate the sacrifice our parents have made. Therefore, we must plan for this journey effectively. Of course, depending on your background and depending on the school you are in the country you are in, it's always important to discuss your plans with somebody. It could be a school counselor, it could be someone like Mr. Atilola, it could be a family or friend, but discuss your plan. You may also wish to take advantage of professional organizations who offer services. I say this because when we come to this environment, sometimes we need to know it's a different ball game from where we're coming from. The mindset is different. The careers are different. You know, in our traditional home countries, you have to be a lawyer, a medical doctor, or an engineer before you're considered somebody. But we're in a different environment where some of these careers are not even the best paying careers as they used to. So we need to appreciate that we need support to actually pick the right course in itself. We need to think about the future plans. I was reading this morning, I have it in front of me, the Financial Times in the UK, talking about the difficult work conditions for young people, graduates who've gone to university for 4 years, 3 years, invested a lot, but difficult employment circumstances. How do you navigate that as a young person? I think it starts with planning. And also for those of us in the diaspora, please note that school, college advice support is never enough. School, college advice is never enough. And I say this to a lot of my friends in the UK who maybe came here a lot older. I think there's a mindset that once I'm abroad, everything will be fine. You know, once I'm abroad, it's better than what was in Nigeria. It's better than what was in Ghana. And I say to parents, it's never enough. You still have that responsibility to go beyond school. School has thousands of students and your child is just one in 1,000. So please note that we need to go the extra mile to support our children. Of course, the next thing is the finance. We're talking about what next after high school, career choice and skills acquisition for relevance in the 21st century. That's my topic. Let's look at the finance. You know, studying in any country, UK, US, Canada, there are financial considerations. If you're studying in the US, for example, the Ivy League universities are quite expensive, right? Except you have a scholarship. We're talking about a huge investment. So wherever you are, you still need to think about investment, the financial implication. Financial planning also involves not just the cost of the tuition, but feeding, clothing, entertainment. So parents and students must think about the cost of the investment. And for some of us in the diaspora as well, think about the consequences. There might be student loans, there might be finance to think about. Yes, these things are there, but think about the consequences of those things as well. And of course, you now need to apply to the college. Once again, when I was thinking about this morning, something dawned on me. And you know, for those of you who are familiar with the United Kingdom, For the first time in history, we have one of the most diverse cabinets ever. But majority of the immigrants on that cabinet are from India and Pakistan, Indians and Pakistanis. Many of them arrived in the UK with parents running shops, corner shops, but the children of those immigrants are now the Chancellor of Exchequer, the Health Secretary, the Immigration Secretary, the Business Secretary, the most influential positions. I ask myself, where are the Africans? Where are the Africans? And I know where we got it wrong. The Africans were so busy, they forgot to invest in the children the way they should. They thought getting them abroad was enough. The Indians didn't stop there. The Indians still had their children come to the shops and Indian restaurants to help mommy and daddy. I have friends who are medical doctors, Indians, still helping their parents every weekend in the shops. We must think about the fact that having our children abroad is not the end in itself. So we must do a lot more to equip them. The Indians were also very good in choosing the right school for their children. They had community clubs. I see with the Chinese community in Cambridge and the Russians. They have Saturday schools where their culture is still extended. They had Saturday schools where their local languages are still preserved. Your typical African gets abroad, the first thing they want to lose is their accent. That's what our friends preserve. They preserve their heritage, they preserve their culture. So we mustn't be so quick in trying to get our children to Cambridge, Harvard, Oxford, Yale. That is not enough anymore. We need to give them a sense of where they're coming from. Somebody was speaking earlier about self-esteem and confidence. I think this is where we're getting it wrong. The admission to university is great, but we must build something, particularly children in the diaspora. I have a teenager, and I'll share a very quick experience. He was born in the UK, but he got to a point where he didn't understand his place anymore in the United Kingdom. Because when he was growing up, race was not an issue. But he got to an age when he realized, I'm not from this place. That became a challenging point in his life. He realized for the first time, people told him, you're not from here, as he got older. And that's why sometimes, particularly in the United Kingdom, some of our youngsters get into crime, get into drugs and so many other things because they get rejected by society. But we have a responsibility, and I think hopefully a platform like this Mr. Atola has created should preserve our culture, should give the diaspora children something beyond academics, something beyond getting to University of Toronto, something beyond getting to Cambridge, Harvard, and Yale, but the preservation of our culture and our values. But once you've made those university plans, of course, you shortlist the university. As you already know, depending on the country you're going to, it's good to have more than one option. I know every parent in the UK wants their child, for example, to get to Cambridge, but have insurance options or Harvard. It's not always guaranteed. Of course, you look at the cost of the institutions as well. So laying a foundation. You look at accommodation options. I wouldn't want to dwell too much on that, but as part of your planning, you look at the accommodation options. Right. Doing well at college or university, which is really where I'm going to focus a lot of my time, is firstly, you must have a plan for this also. You must have a plan. The system and structure is likely to be different from your home country. Mr. Atola was talking about curriculum earlier on. That's a real issue. Most developed countries like Canada, US, UK, focuses on understanding rather than cramming. Our system in Africa, depending on how long you've been in the country, if you're still working with the WIAC or the NECO system, you would have to switch because the system in these countries focuses a lot about your own understanding. If you're used to giving the teacher back what they've given you, then you perhaps will be struggling. So let's realize there needs to be an adjustment. Have a good start. Time flies. Your grades will determine your employment prospect. So have a good start. Time flies in this country. Before you realize it, you're here for 10, 15 years. But let's now look at the soft skills, because I really think this is where the difference will be made. I speak to employers across the UK, across the likes of Canada and the US, and what I hear all the time is that we're moving beyond just hard academic skills to soft skills. In fact, that's the time we're in right now. It's a time where we have to develop the soft skills, and parents, platforms like this, we must help our diaspora children, because unfortunately sometimes the competition, the host country, their own children started earlier than our children. So there's a gap already for us. So when we talk about those soft skills, we're looking at the communication skills. We still have cultures where children are not allowed to speak. It's always been top down. We must create respect, yes, but at the same time, we must realize that these students must be given an opportunity to share. So communication skills must be improved. Self-motivation, we must encourage them. Let's motivate them. But that self-motivation also starts with some of the foundation we've built as parents. Leadership skills. Most places in the world, we would have summer holidays very soon. The children can build leadership skills. We can give them scenarios where they can do things. They can join an organization such as this. They can volunteer virtually. That would help them. Responsibility, teamwork. Mr. Tola was talking about the team that's put this together, the board, everybody else, teamwork. Let's encourage young people to build those soft skills that employers are looking for. Problem-solving skills, we hear it all the time. Solving problems. Our world is full of many issues. Our countries, home countries are full of many issues. Let's be problem solvers. Let's not be people who just want all the problems solved for them. Soft skills like decisiveness, ability to work under time pressure, time management. These are things that platforms like this, platforms in our churches should do. This cannot just be left for the school. I don't know of any school in the world that can do all of this. And that is why if we want our children to shine, if we want our children to be exceptional, if we want them to be salt and light, then we must go beyond just what we do on the spiritual side. These soft skills must equally be embedded. Flexibility skills, negotiation skills, conflict resolution. These are skills that we must continue to hone in and build in our children. Getting hired. Getting hired takes, I'm sure Mrs. Frances William, she's an HR professional. I'm sure she will do a better job than this. But getting hired. Remember what I said at the beginning. Parents made sacrifices. They left comfortable jobs. They left a lot of things to come to the diaspora. I was speaking to a family member just a couple of days ago, an established lawyer in Nigeria, but she's in the UK today with two of her children, doing a kind of job she's not proud of, but she has to make ends meet. And I look at our children saying, you know, that's a sacrifice your parents have made for you, and you dare not end up in that same position. Every generation has to be an improvement on the current one. So we must prepare them to do well. And how do we do that? We must give them those skills to get hired. A lot of international students in the UK don't get hired. A lot of African students struggle to get the right jobs. And part of that is because some of those soft skills are missing. And I'm sure it will be the same for the US, UK, and all these other, Canada as well, because some of those soft skills are missing. So start things early. Let's not work on the Africa factor. Let's start application processes early. Internships, volunteering. Let's start the application process early. Consider internships. Everything should not be about earning. Everything should not be about getting paid now. Let there be investment in the future. Internships. Look for companies to work for without being paid. Look at roles in more than one countries. Don't just focus on your host country. Look elsewhere. Make yourself a globally viable graduate, not just in your country of origin. The pastor of the church I attend in Cambridge, Winners Chapel in Cambridge, he actually was hired from Nigeria. Diplomatic, was given a diplomatic car, all expenses paid. I looked at him and I said, you know, there are people in the UK who are struggling to get jobs, but a company brought you from Nigeria here to work. And I realized he built the soft skills. He made himself internationally viable. I don't think your disadvantage is always about location, but it's these extras that you're building confidence, knowing that I'm good enough. Look for jobs you can do remotely. That same pastor started working for international companies in Nigeria before he came to the UK. So he already had a globally attractive CV. Build things you can do remotely. This will take effort, and it would also take a positive mindset. Finally, as you make your plans, review your plans, do bear the above steps in mind. It goes without saying that it's not an exhaustive list, as there are other factors you may want to consider depending on your individual circumstances. But I want to close on this. There's an African adage that says it takes a community to raise a child. I think sometimes we leave that adage at the airport. Once we take off, that's it. We must take this adage to our different locations. It still takes a community to raise a child. And we must, and I see other ethnic groups do that. I've shared with the Indians, the Chinese, the community spirit continues. Parents, please, when we go abroad, if it doesn't exist, let's start one. The same way Mr. Atilola has done this in Canada. We need the community support. We all have to do this together. And there's a Zulu word called Ubuntu. It says, I am because you are. You will need insights. You will need contributions. You will need experiences, sacrifices of others. So we must, as young people, we must be humble, we must be teachable, and we must be open. I wish you all the best. And once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Olugbenga, you said you will go back to the Isaiah 61.
Oh, yes. I know I have a pastor on the platform, so I can't not go back to the scripture. Thank you very much, sir. So Isaiah 61, it's been a scripture that's actually been on my mind for so many years, but it came up again last night and this morning. And in that Isaiah 61, it talks about for all your shame, for all your trouble, for all your confusion, what the Lord will do. We'll give you, we know about the beauty for ashes, for all the things that have been robbed. And I think the way I understood it, particularly when I talk about your children in foreign countries, I believe it was talking about the diaspora and the fact that it would bring us proud. They make us proud. They will bring us the dignity that we deserve. Because I know what it's like when I still have a Nigerian passport. That's a different story. Because I should have been a British citizen in 2005, but I didn't take it up. And the reason for that is I'm a resident, so I come in and out. I have various interesting conversations when I'm coming back to the UK with my Nigerian passport. You're always guaranteed a long conversation. Every airport I've been, from Germany to Italy, I'm always the last man allowed out because of my Nigerian passport. But I know that we need to change that narrative. And it starts with those of us in the diaspora doing the right things, making our continent and our country proud. So yes, so I think that scripture talks about your children in foreign countries. If you use the Message Bible, it talks about those in foreign countries. It talks about the fact that we're to bind brokenhearted, liberty to the captives. And I think liberty to the captives and the broken heart and broken hearted, I think that talks about our home country. So I'll end on this. We're not better than those we left behind. So, we're in these great countries where light works, internet works. We should never lose our sense of humanity and humility. We're here to be a solution. I remember Mrs. Fasher is on this call. I probably she probably wasn't aware of this. When I met her mom in January 2018, she said something. She said, those of you, the Lord gave her a prophecy, those of you who've been to England, come back and make Nigeria a better England. I wrote that down because I realized those of us in Canada, those of us in the United States of America, our situations may have pushed us out, but we can contribute in different ways to make our country a better place. We can contribute online. We don't all have to move back home. There are things you can do online now with Zoom. There are ways we can make it happen. So let's realize that we're not better than them. We're all in this together. Remember Ubuntu. I am because you are. Thank you, sir.
Taking a chance.